In this video, we're going to move on from looking at the math methods into looking at the methods of the string class. So to look closer at strings, let's actually make a new project because I don't want to put this in math examples. Let's do project, new project, and I'm going to call this string examples. And I'm going to save it in the relevant folder. Click OK. And to start, let's just make a new class. I'm going to make this a console program. Here we go. And we're going to call this console program, what are the string methods? So here we go, console program called what are the string methods? So we know that I can type in a console program, I can do all kinds of things, but I can type something like int numponies. We also know that I can do this, string food equals chicken nuggets. Now, to pull this back to what we learned the other day, some of the high-level stuff of this unit, one of the first things I talked about in that big notes video was something called a primitive type. Primitive types, remember, are those three basic types in Java, which are ints, doubles, and booleans. And remember, I know those are primitive types because the first letter of each of those when I make a variable of that type is always lowercase. So looking here, it looks like string has a capital letter first, which means string is not a primitive type. String is actually a class, just like grect or hotel television. Since string is a class, that means that string has to have some methods. That's the difference, right, between a primitive type and a class. Classes have methods. So because this has methods, that means I have to be able to write something like food dot, and what could possibly follow this dot is any method of the string class. So let's see what some of them are. Let's print line. Here's one of them, food dot length. And if you had to guess what that does, you're probably correct in your guess. It actually tells you how many characters are in the string, including things like spaces. So I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So hopefully this should give me 15. And let's just double check to make sure maybe I miscounted. There we go, it does actually in fact give me 15. So one of these string methods is going to be dot length, which tells you how long something is, how many characters. All right, let's look at another one. I can print line food dot substring. Let's do 4, so let's do 4, 7. Now let's see, what does substring do? Let's compile this and run it. It actually grabs you the characters at these points in the string. So from character number 4 to character number 7, actually not including character number 7. Now, how do I figure out the placement or the index, like we call it, of letters in a string? Well, we know in computer science, I always start counting at 0, which means this capital C here would be 0, the H would be 1, the I would be 2, C 3, K 4, etc., etc. Just to make this a little easier, I actually already made a little note that has this. I think this will make our lives a bit easier as we're going forward and doing things with this. So you can see I just gave you the indexes of every letter in chicken nuggets and what they end up being in the string. So let's do this. Let's just test our knowledge. Let's print line food.substring 11 to 13. And what's that going to do? It's going to give me the thing at 11 and the thing at 12, but actually not the thing at 13. So I think I should just see GE here. There we go. Let's do another one. Let's print line food.substring. Let's go 5 to 12. What's that going to do? Well, hypothetically, it should be 5 up until and not including 12, so n nug, I think. And there we go. This is how substring works. Let's try something else. Let's do print line foo.substring 1075. Any ideas what might happen here? Clearly there's not an index 75 in this string, so let's see what this looks like. It actually doesn't work. It actually does give me an error called an out of bounds exception. You're probably going to run into these pretty often. It means you tried to access an index that actually does not exist in the string. Weirdly though, you know what I am allowed to do is do from 10 to 15. Looking over here, there is actually not a letter at index 15, but we also know that when I grab a substring, it does not include the character at that last number. So if I run this, it will just be from 10 to the end. There is also another way we can do substring. Let me print line foo.substring. And if I just put in 3, I'm just giving it one number. You can see what this looks like. It actually grabs from index 3 all the way to the end. So we've seen two methods so far and kind of two ways to use one of them, right? Dot length tells you how long something is. Dot substring, and I can give it a start and an end. And dot substring, and I can just give it a start. And since that's annoying me, let's actually just make this a little bit bigger. All right, there is one more string method that I'm going to teach you right now. Let's print line food dot index of h. What is this going to do? Well, it takes in some string and it tells me actually where it is within my longer string. So in this case, I'm looking for h. So hypothetically, this should tell me 1. And if I run this, you'll see it will print out 1. Sweet. Let's try another one. Let's do print line foo.index of u. Let's compile this and run it. And it tells me the u is at index 9. Great. Note that this is case sensitive. So if I do it with a capital U, that's technically looking for something different. Let's do this. Let's print line food.index of j. Is there a j in chicken nuggets? No. So let's see what this actually gives me. It actually tells me -1 for any string that's actually not in the original string. So just know that. It's a common thing that we might want to do. If I wanted to see if there was a j in the string, I could check if food.index of j is greater than -1. That's actually a way, kind of in English, what I mean by that is there a j in the string, kind of yes or no. Let's do one more thing. Let's print line foo.index of, I can do get. So you actually can do index of with a longer string as the parameter. And it tells you where that starts. So the get in chicken nuggets actually starts at index 11. So that's what this tells me. And again, just to remind you that this is case sensitive, I can do print line food.index of capital C, and it should give me 0. That's where the capital C is. Versus food.index of lowercase c will actually give me 3. One more thing here, common question, what happens if you put in something that has multiple of that letter? So let's do food.index of, and let's do lowercase n. Aren't there actually 2 lowercase n's? There's one at index 6 and one at index 8 up here. So let's see, what does it actually tell me? It looks like it gives me 6, so it will actually give me just the first one. So I don't get any information on whether there's more n's than that. It just tells me where the very first one starts. So the last one is dot index of, and you have to give it some string. So these are the 3, or kind of, you could think of it as 4, although substring is just 2 different ways to use it. But think of it as the 3 string methods that you'll need to know. We're going to get in a lot of practice combining all of these to be able to do some interesting stuff with strings later on in this unit.